Making SWC, to me, would be the greatest achievement.
Making SWC for me would be great, would be awesome. But yeah, winning it would be like the ultimate dream.
Making SWC would be more for the respect of defending our title. We couldn't lose. We can't lose it.
Making SWC would mean like all the hard work that I put in for like all the years, for like the Challengers Cup and getting to the SPL would pay off finally.
I think we've got the raw talent and mechanics. We deserve to go there. I think everyone on the team is one of the best in their roles.
We've done a lot of theory crafting this year, so you should see some new stuff coming out of us.
This year is my year.
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 That this year is not all of their years. It's not really possible for them to actually have that happen, but they're fighting for the World Championships and to go right now. The standings very interesting after day one so far with one more set to play. We do have energy though still at the top.
Two big splits coming out. One, Cringe Crew able to take a split against both Obey and Energy, and that's really shaking things up. We kind of talked about these bottom seeds. Like a lot of times the teams they beat are actually the teams that are going to be that third place, and that could be the same thing here. Obey cannot split against Cyclone, or they are in a really rough spot heading into day two.
And onto this as well, I mean, we're going to see the Obey lineup yet again today. They played against Cringe Crew early on. Aggro obviously joining us today on the desk after his casting. And when we talk about PrettyPriMe here, what do you have to say?
Really, really great player. I mentioned it during the cast. Easily one of the premier mid laners in the world, not just in Europe. And someone came up to us and said that he hasn't died yet at all in those two games that he played up against Cringe Crew. Despite
from his missus, Arctic Prime, let me know.
Yeah, I mean,
to remind us.
Well, of course, yeah, of course. Then she's got to let us know. But awesome player, just played great on the Raw, played great on the Raijin. We still haven't seen his sort of namesake god, that Vulcan, from him yet. I'm assuming we'll see it pretty soon, but I expect him to have a big set here.
Well, he's a cool, chill guy. Let's see what some of the players have to say about PrettyPriMe.
PrettyPrime's such a chill dude. I love watching his stream. He's so like zen.
I don't think I've ever seen him excited in my life. He's just chilling. He's relaxed.
I never seen him tilt. I never seen him being annoyed or being nervous about something or raging at someone or saying something bad. It's always a pleasure watching his stream and like seeing him how calm he is, even though he's feeding, his team is feeding, or he's losing the game or throwing. It's always a pleasure watching PrettyPriMe.
I remember when PrettyPriMe was like, before he got into a team, like I think he was still going to uni, like up in Umeå or something, and like he was streaming. I could already tell back then that this guy's probably gonna end up in SPL, And I remember when he was back in Titan, I think Titan or L'Aquila they were called back then, I think, when they picked him up. I whispered murder and all that. That's a great pickup, like, he's a crazy good player.
When I think of PrettyPriMe, I think of Vulcan, like that's his main god. He's been playing it for quite a while.
He's been playing Ra, I think, as well. He just works really well with these big ults. He tends to hit every big ult. Vulcan ults, he would like hit 3-man ults. Ra snipes, hit every Ra snipe.
Best mid laner in Europe. We work well together. Well, he does tell the team to let me die all the time, but I still respect him.
Let him die all the time. But something to note there, a lot of those players saying he's very chill, very relaxed, never really shows a lot of emotion in his gameplay. I did that interview just after they lost and split against Cringe Crew. I wouldn't say it was, rage or anything, but it was a lot of frustration with his own play. We mentioned despite dying 0 times, he really felt like he was the reason that they dropped that game against Cringe Crew, made a couple misplays in the late game scenarios. So a little bit of frustration creeping into his mind.
Well, this guy here, Wlfy, you can see him on the screen. Obviously, a lot of respect from the EU pros about this guy. They talked him up quite a bit, Aggro, overall, saying he's a very solid player, just not had the chance to shine.
Exactly, been around the scene forever, just subbing for teams, being just on the cusp of the SCL, but now finally making it, doing well on Cyclone, had a great online stage for them, and now here at LAN showing off. I mean, he made a couple great plays on that Giannis. That last game on Raijin looked very, very comfortable and played very well. So we'll see how he can match up with one of the old guards here in the mid lane.
And he's a very old god as PrettyPriMe as well, even though he's still pretty much a youngster, I guess, in the scene overall here. So we're going to picks and bans now. Obviously, we've seen both these two teams play today, and I saw already. Before picks and bans, who would you favor after seeing the performances so far?
You have to favor Obey overall. Cyclone, again, I think there's very small things that they can do that'll allow them to win games here, but coming into this, I mean, Cyclone has to have a wave of confidence. You cannot expect to take a game against Energy, but to be so competitive with them through the first, 15 to 20 minutes against a team who likes to be very aggressive early, open up the map. Now you're going to be going against a team who's much more focused on team play and kind of looking for those 5v5 fights, much more objective-oriented, and that's going to relieve, I think, a lot of that early game pressure off of their shoulders. If I'm Cyclone, I'm very happy with my performances against Energy.
We're seeing a lot of adaptations into the picks and bans here already, Aggro. Obviously, with the Ra and Athena banned out, they're already adapting to the new style of things that the lands have brought us.
The mini meta is already starting to develop. It's Ra still, Athena being prioritized by almost every team. Hunbats has been very prevalent in most of the games, either picked or banned, and Fafnir has been very heavily prioritized. You don't see a whole lot of it in the NA side, but EU seems to love it.
Yeah, NA really have kind of drifted away from the Fafnir, and I think a lot of that comes down to his CC. While there's a lot in his kit, while he's in his dwarf form, it's only the single hammer throw that's not the easiest thing to connect. And we saw Cyclone totally brought it up where they didn't really have a ton of guaranteed hard engage to bait out relics. I'd like to see them change it up in their picks and bans, get a little bit more CC across their composition.
We talk about, the fact that the hammer throw there overall is difficult to hit, but at the same time, we're at LAN, right?
It's true.
And most of the gods at LAN that have hard skill shots can make it a little bit easier for them.
I think the difference is you're never going to miss an Athena taunt. And if you do, that's a pretty big mess up. It's really hard to miss these big, wide, arcing skill shots. But a hammer, sometimes it comes down to whether the other person jukes it, and you don't really have that control on if they're going to outplay you.
I'm really salty now that Athena isn't available because I would love to have seen Athena miss a taunt today just so people could replay that back. Aggro picks-wise, we've seen the Naja, the Jing away, and now it's Fenrir and Isis being hovered over.
Again, the mini meta. Fenrir and Isis have been picked a decent amount here. Fenrir by adapting and Isis by multiple teams now, looking to get that early pressure and continue to keep around the map, just making sure you're on the buff invades, as well as we've seen tons of Naja bans and picks so far.
I almost want to assume that Cyclone are trying to run a very early game composition that they saw Energy run against Cringe Crew, going for early game, looking for invades, looking to pressure out. They have the Isis as well, very good for controlling those Gold Fury secures.
And if you can't pick something up for yourself, why not just copy the world champions? Is that really a bad idea to do?
No, not whatsoever. As long as you can identify what you need to do to perform with it, it'll be fine. It's not just plug and play. Smite isn't like that. You have to play around your team composition.
Tell you what is plug and play though, PrettyPrime's Vulcan, that's very plug and play into any composition.
And this also, I talked about the Naja earlier being paired with an Isis, or a Nemesis paired with it, and not a lot of combo, but this is definitely a practice execute coming out of Obey. PrettyPriMe, CaptainTwig, very veteran. I guarantee you they have gone into practice games against the rest of their team and just got the timing perfectly on that Vulcan ultimate coming down off of the Naja ult.
It's probably one of the hardest things to do as well, Aggro, when the god changes itself. Like Vulcan's ultimate did change on the trajectory of how high it went and the distance, it traveled over the speed, which can influence those timings.
That's true, but when you've played Vulcan as long as PrettyPriMe has, even though there's a change, it'll feel a little bit different. I mean, PrettyPriMe is Vulcan at this point.
That's true.
I saw him eating meatballs earlier. He went into the bathroom
that's
and he tossed some paper towels into a trash can and said, "Fire in the hole." I mean, he is Vulcan.
And another thing too is the Vulcan travel distance on the ult, or timing changes, right? If you're point blank, that's coming down real quick. If you go max range, and so you have to be, you cannot just pick up Vulcan and not practice his ultimate because that timer is so hard to get used to depending on the distance you fire it off of.
Well, Capri and Sobek banned by CycloneGG here, focusing towards the support for Obey, mainly to the boy of, well, actually, the Sobek ban could actually be flexed for variety as well as PandaLike here.
Yeah, he played it earlier. He played that Sobek solo. Of course, this leaves up both Ymir and Tyr, his two premier gods. It seems that most teams aren't really afraid of that Tyr in particular. We saw the Ymir banned away in the second game of their set against Cringe Crew, but they did, Cringe Crew, pick a lot of cripples, and that probably dissuaded Variety from picking the god that he really made his name on. But I'd be kind of surprised if he didn't go for it here.
It's possible, but I would like to see, like, if that happens, you have to imagine Kalas is just he is waiting for that to be locked in to insta-lock the Ares.
They got the Fafnir already. How are they going to be able to put Fafnir in Ares? That's the dream, though, if you could have both.
I'm looking at Tolly right now. I want to see the Ares solo.
I do too.
Oh.
I don't know if it'll be the best matchup now, and they're probably going to have to hold on to it.
Hold
He's
up
an
a
Ami
second.
highlighted. I don't know if this is happening. I would
No
expect
way.
Obey to
Now
pull
listen,
this off if anyone.
Ataraxia for Obey has been talking and bigging this up for so long, yet he's still not pulled it out
He's
himself.
taking people out.
He's not pulled it himself out. Why would he keep talking about it, bigging it up, expecting somebody else to do it for him?
Because it is still risky. You don't know exactly how it's going to perform on the big stage here at LAN. So I'm sure Ataraxia, if they're able to secure their spot at Super Regionals or possibly get eliminated, I'm sure we'll see him pull it out. I'm expecting it.
And this is early game, just tried and true. You see the Anhur highlighted as well. Cyclone really want to make sure to start off this game quick and fast. They've actually paired a Jing 10 there. That's going to be going over to the solo lane, interesting enough. One thing that's a little bit risky for Obey's matchup here is this Fenrir. We saw Fenrir, follow that Jing way, even after knocking yourself up and agiliting away, just because the dash is able to chase you through that. On top of that, Fenrir has a fantastic matchup against Vulcan, who has no options to get away from him when Brutalize is going through as well. He's knock-up immune, and so Vulcan and PrettyPriMe, he's not going to be able to peel himself. He needs support from his team.
And there is the
There
tier.
it is.
It's going to get through and locked in. I was going to be interested to see whether or not it would be the Ymir or the tier for this Jing 10 matchup. But over in that solo lane, I don't really see many people dying there, Aggro.
No, and not enough immobile gods to really warrant the Ymir pick here, I would say. You want gods that get really trapped in the jungle by that Ymir wall, and right now it'd basically only be Isis that would be in a lot of trouble. Because every other god is able to dash through that. So able to get that tier, though, again, this is the god that Variety made his name for himself. And that really is, down the line, these are gods, when you think of every individual player on Obey, these are the picks that you think of. You think of PrettyPriMe on Vulcan, you think of Variety on Tier. Of course you think of Jingwei for Ataraxia.
Yep.
Frezzy, I think of Bacchus. I mean, it's every single character is very comfortable with their god.
Well, let's break down the actual mid-meta here, the trio in the mid lane. Adonis for me, obviously we've got Naja, Vulcan, Bacchus, and then it's Fafnir, Fenrir, and Isis. This is a very interesting trio that could go either way.
I think Obey are looking for the pickoffs here. They want to get a good belly flop into, baiting a couple relics possibly, and then just ult with Naja, get a kill, reset. They're not really trying to take extended fights. I like Cyclone's counter picks in this mid lane. Again, this Fenrir needs to have a huge impact, and iceicebabyy has been performing really well overall. He needs to be sticking to this Vulcan or the Jingwei, looking to pick them off and utilizing their early game with Isis and Anhur to open up Gold Furies. Again, the question is though, Cyclone, you see their draft, I love it. Are they the team to pull it off though?
Can they pull it off? For you, Aggro, who have you got on this one?
I'm going to be really looking at Fenrir. I agree with Adonis. In this jungle matchup in general is just extremely volatile. It's whoever gets ahead can really abuse the other in the jungle. So overall, I gotta give it to Obey. I just feel like they're so comfortable on the gods that they've drafted that it's hard to pick against them.
Kind of agree with that one as well as Adonis and Aggro. We are going to side with Obey here, mainly just for comfort picks, but to be fair, Cyclone have a few as well. What does F. and Anatoly have to say?
Well, we're going to bring you the game here. Game number 1. Obey on the right side and Cyclone on the left. We heard the analysts dissect the picks and bans. If you want my 2 cents, Anatoly, Cyclone are front-loaded. They're looking to find the victory in 20 minutes. But is this the team that can do it?
I think that Cyclone definitely improved their composition compared to their last set earlier on in the day against Energy. We see already more crowd control coming out of them between this Fenrir and Isis and the Xing compared to their last set. They were running more of this ulti CC combination between the Hunbats and the Shock. So already a lot of improvement, leaps and bounds.
But where are the late game options?
I think that right now, coming out of Cyclone, there aren't that many. Now, playing these Anhur, he's relying more on the Fafnir just to synergize with the Coerce, right? But other than the Xing Chen with the crowd control, there isn't much damage just straight up in-hand wise coming out of Cyclone. So as long as that Obey can really drag this on, and don't lose too much in the early game, they should be coming out on top here.
Absolutely, and I mean, CaptainTwig on the Naja, like Aggro mentioned absolutely fantastically, everybody is comfy on the side of Obey. They're all sitting in lazy boys. Nobody's got a problem with the god that they're on. And CaptainTwig on that Naja will certainly be able to combat iceicebabyy, at least in the early game. But Cyclone looking to get earlier than early. And they're going to start the game off hot with an invade on the right side of Speed Buff. Obey says no problem. They'll get their experience elsewhere and head to the back Harpies.
They have the Wrath available on Deathwalker. Clean invade. And look at this. They're holding on to it, able to still invade it, holding on to this Wrath for the blue buff invade. So now they're going to be able to head to the laning phase if they want, but already CaptainTwig doesn't even want to contest it. He's going to rotate towards the middle.
And you can see everybody sort of still level 1 that was involved over there. iceicebabyy going to be able to take out these mid Harpies alongside Wlfy. So Cyclone come out on top of that one. Dashing forward is going to be Collis in the long lane. So we've got our Fafnir on her lane. Left side Harpies go to Obey.
And I think that this hurts Twig more than, like, let's say a Fenrir gets denied a speed buff versus a Naja getting denied a speed buff. CaptainTwig really hurting on that side. You want to be able to make the mobility plays, especially with the ring bounces amplifying your movement speed off of percentage. So already with 2 invades coming out of Cyclone, a great start trying to bounce back off of their 0-2 loss against Energy.
Which, like I said, they've got to win this one early. Cyclone, all of their gods are early game dominant, and then late game there really isn't an option there. I mean, what is Deathwalker gonna carry the game to his mountain on Xing? I don't think so. So Cyclone off to a great start and playing to their strategy, which is a very important thing that we see the rookies have trouble with usually.
And this is a really smart play out of Cyclone, putting a Wrath on their soul laner, because both junglers really need purification to fight against the other. Obviously, you need to get out of the Ragnarok if you're CaptainTwig, and on the vice versa, you don't want to get comboed by CaptainTwig and PrettyPriMe if you're iceicebabyy.
VoteNBK aggressive as always, just bringing it right to Ataraxia. Speaking to a lot of these players, you know, both publicly and privately, honestly, nobody's afraid of Ataraxia. Plenty of players respect him, plenty of players think that he's a great player, which is all accurate, but he's not going to fight you. And because of that, because everybody seems to understand how aggressive or not Ataraxia is going to be, Cyclone can afford to bring it right to the opposition.
That's what a lot of European players have been saying about him in the interviews, that Ataraxia is more about this farm-oriented style, similar to the old-school style of Barracuda, but he was able to switch things up very quickly, I would say, in this last split. Now, Ataraxia, he hasn't switched it up quite yet, but in his last set, actually, when he was playing the Jing way, he's made a few good aggressive plays, which we're not used to seeing come out of him.
Right, and even still, it's just kind of these flashes. VoteNBK, on the other hand, he's
not afraid.
Aggressive is his middle name.
And this is his first LAN. Ataraxia has been to many LANs. Second place in Season 1 World. He's been on the biggest stage, and he's the one that's more conservative. So it's interesting seeing a rookie such as VoteNBK, first LAN ever, just not afraid to take a fight, sitting in the middle of 4 people.
Well, you know, the LAN is certainly a different environment, but just playing against these big names is certainly a big deal. And VoteNBK has had experience there. Trouble for CaptainTwig in the mid lane. Cyclone going to be fine. And again, staying aggressive, going for the early game plays, looking for the red buff. There's an ultimate. PANDALIKE in trouble. PANDALIKE gone. First blood goes to Wlfy. And Cyclone stay dominant in the early game. I find this very, very impressive. Swift play out of Ataraxia to take the red buff.
Third buff invade coming out of Cyclone. Beautiful execution because they forced the purification out of Twig. He had to retreat between the tier 1 mid and tier 2. On top of this, they caught out PANDALIKE before the Intoxicate come out. The Ragnarok coming out of iceicebabyy with the ultimates from NBK and Wlfy. Perfect execution, taking advantage of the support before his tanky items come online.
That's very important that Cyclone are playing to their strategy. I'm going to say that many times today and tonight. Good night, says iceicebabyy to CaptainTwig. He makes the jungler fall down. One for the jungle, one for the support. That's 2 deaths on the side of Obey already. And like I said, Cyclone have to win this one early, totally, or they ain't winning it at all. And right now, it's looked like they're in the right spot.
And that's a 4th buff invade, but the question is, did they sacrifice too much? Barely able to avoid the Intoxicate, but iceicebabyy sacrificing his life for that 4th blue buff invade. Well, not the 4th blue buff, but 4th buff overall. So Cyclone, despite sacrificing that 1 life, they're still in a good, decent lead. 1,000 gold up, heading into the 5-minute mark. We were talking about, can they win past the 20-minute mark? Well, if they keep playing like this, it won't even get to the 20-minute mark.
Well, that's the point. We saw earlier in the day, Energy pulled up a combination very similar to this versus Cringe Crew. We started off the day watching Energy draft Anhur next to Isis, next to Fenrir, just these early game composition. And it was just domination from minute one. And Cyclone are just sort of doing their own brand. They've got the Xing Chen instead of what Dimmy played earlier, but they're doing the same idea, and they understand that, hey, we are front-loaded with our combination, and we're looking for the quick victory for sure.
It seems that Deathwalker really likes to play a lot of these Guardians. He's been playing the Xing Chen a few times. He's been playing the Ymir every now and then. So I like the style that he's bringing to his team. A lot of solo laners will opt for the warrior styles and try to, you know, dive the back line, but you can't really peel if you're a warrior. But now if you're playing Xing Chen, you have the best of both worlds. Deathwalker can still dive the back line, or he could just sit in the back and easily save his teammates.
I find the pancake flip to be one of the best one of the best peels in the game, in all honesty. You get the quick knock up into the follow-up route. It's so successful to just stall a player for half a second. Usually they'll jump out of it or even beads it sometimes. It's not that long of a route, but it's short enough to stop a player from successfully achieving whatever their goal was, and it's just long enough to really make an impact. So I love the impact that Xing Chen is able to add to this fight.
And it's more than just a pancake flip, right? He has his Furious Roar as a soft peel to mitigate any damage that CaptainTwig might do in the backline. He also has his ultimate if people clump up too much without the purification, because on the side of Cyclone, compared to other games, they can easily force out some really good purifications on the side of Iceice jumping in, Ragnarocking, or even Wlfy with a nice long-range Spirit Ball. Very true. So Cyclone going to have to keep in mind what they've got on their side, and right now they've got a lead on their side. It's about, what is that, 1,500? Absolutely, just over at 1,645 on the side of Cyclone. One more time, this is the team of 5 rookies. VoteNBK has a split under his belt, so I guess I'm not being completely honest, but definitely more rookie than not, especially compared to Obey. These guys have been around the block, and Obey are the ones watching as the Gold Fury is started and quickly taken away. Vulcan far too late, but Naja goes to the sky, taking up one. Down comes the target, and VoteNBK gets put to bed by PrettyPriMe. Jumping away on the south side is going to be help from Deathwalker, and Kalas is able to escape as well. The Gold Fury goes down, and Cyclone trade out their single on her. I think that's worse. As long as Kalas gets out, nice save by the mid laner. And Wlfy helps out the Dragon Man. And during this whole time, as iceicebabyy retreated on the north, he is able to steal the 5th buff in a row. So 6-minute 45 Gold Fury going on the way of Cyclone, extending their early game lead. They've been developing a strategy in the early game and executing it brilliantly, just grouping up when they need to. They have the objective control with the Isis, with the Wrath on Deathwalker, now taking away the 6th buff from Obey. I'm really starting to worry if I'm on the side of Obey, not having this kind of experience, looking at the level gap disparity, 2 difference on the side of the junglers.
And it's this early. You know, something that Kevin brought up that was very important was the fact that Cyclone stayed neck and neck with Energy for about 20 minutes, right? The entire set, you saw Cyclone able to stay relevant and at least a little bit even with one of the best teams in the world for 20 minutes, and then things started to fall awry. Well, if you're able to stay even for 20 minutes, why not just win in 20 minutes?
You might as well, and this is exactly what Cyclone have adapted so brilliantly. I would have loved to see them obviously switch it between games 1 and game 2 against Energy, but either way, they made the right changes. This is only the day 1 of 3 in the Group C weekend. It's still a really good spot for Cyclone to really come off running.
Something that I want to bring up as well is that when you see these rookie teams, they tend to do well in the early game because that's what they see the most of. You're always guaranteed an early game. You're always guaranteed, whether it's a scrim, an SPL match on land, doesn't matter who you're playing, you're going to see minute 1, you're going to see minute 5, you're going to see minute 10, and things will always generally go the same. Once you get deeper into the game, well, you might cancel that scrim early or whatnot. So these rookie teams tend to be good in the early game, so why not grab hold and run with it? And that's what Cyclone are doing.
And these rookie teams are really scary to play against because you never really know what to expect coming out of them. It didn't seem that Obey respected the opening strategy from Cyclone, so they didn't place those early game wards, whereas we saw Cyclone, they had a ward on Obey's speed.
Jumping under the tower, here comes Cyclone, staying with the aggression. Vulcan gonna shoot out 3, but Iceice able to make his kill count before the damage comes through. Deathwalker in trouble, ulted is the Naja. The Deathwalker will be toasted here. Damage is enough, but here's the bounce back. PrettyPriMe gets a little bit too close. He gets taken down. CaptainTwig, he gets punished. That's 5 for the Rooks. And Callus is on top of that one. Everybody in the trio of our mid-jungle and support combo have a kill. On the side of Cyclone, they push themselves even further, inching closer to a 3,000 gold lead.
A nice clean 3-for-1 for Cyclone, yet again abusing PandaLike before his tankiness really comes online.
Yep.
He didn't probably have his Drunkometer that high, so not having the protections that he really needs to. The Ragnarok picking him up into the Isis ultimate was a brilliant strategy that Cyclone just keep abusing.
And punishing the Magi's boots. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not criticizing the build here. I think that that's ideally how you're going to build the Bacchus. But knowing that that's how Bacchus wants to build, you can, like you say, punish PandaLike before he gets tanky. Another invade intended coming out from the Fenrir. Looks like that one was successful one more time. CaptainTwig watches as the big Fenrir walks away with the speed buff. And now PandaLike looking for a play here on the Harpy side, right side of the map. PandaLike able to take one, but not take a life, which is kind of what he needs to do.
PandaLike just needs to keep being grouped up. He can't get caught out of position. Deathwalker, he's going to find one into the pull. iceicebabyy jumping in the Ragnarok. There is no purification away, but the Furious Raw is not good, but doesn't matter. Brutalize secures a kill. Variety trying to survive. He should be fine. Another clean pick with more buff invades coming from Cyclone.
4-1-1. And the Fenrir certainly has the info all about this game. He's a driving force of what Cyclone has been able to do. Variety's going to push him around a little bit, but I don't think that's death.
But now he has no mana to really defend his tower. The teleport's on cooldown. PandaLike's trying to make a rotation play here, but he's by himself. PrettyPriMe waiting for the initiation, hoping to get that big highlight play of an ultimate, but NBK stealing it with the impale away from Ataraxia.
I was just going to comment on that. I thought the cameraman was going to stay on that right side engagement, but luckily those players disengaged. Or Cyclone rather, they're starting these team fights on the right side of the map, all deep, you know, like I said, team fight centric, 4-on-4, and the whole time VoteNBK is like, all right, I can do it myself too. Gets aggressive, goes ahead, steals the buff. That buff is on the ground for 30 seconds. He picked it up in about 28.
And right now, Cyclone forcing the Gold Fury 12 minutes, but this time Obey recognized it right off the bat. NBK is calling the disengaged Deathwalker, absorbing those ring bounces, and now Gold Fury is still getting leashed by that Vulcan turret. Should be fine. I don't think Obey really wants to start it up with how much in the lead Cyclone is.
VoteNBK tried to get a little bit cheeky. Not going to be able to find it just yet. 3K in the lead is our early game team out of Cyclone. Nice grab. VoteNBK turns around with the purification into the ultimate. Sanctuary will not save your life. VoteNBK falls down to the wayside. Nice flip up. There's the ultimate out of iceicebabyy. Right to the tower and right to the graveyard. iceicebabyy puts down CaptainTwig.
1-for-1 trade, but it's going to be Obey disengaging. They still recognize that they have a slight experience disadvantage, so they can't really contest in a 4v4 spot. They have to wait for Cyclone to kind of get overextended and overzealous. We saw just how NBK, he stole the red buff. He wanted to force the Gold Fury, but just get caught out of position with a nice rotation from Twig. There was no wards to really spot that out. And with a lead like that, when you have gold to your name, you have to spend it to try to see these rotations so you don't give anything back to your opposition.
And so where's the most effective place for them to ward to really combat that?
I would say if you're on the dual lane, you definitely want to ward in between those boars and the red buff, and then on top of the top left side mid harpies.
So this way you just have this way you don't have vision of the actual objective, but rather the passage to the objective. So you get both entrance and exit. You get 2 shots for the price of 1, and that's very important, is making sure that your wards are actually efficient in what they do. Right side harpies going to be aggressed on by Cyclone, and those should go down very quickly.
Pretty clean lead so far out of Cyclone. 2,500 goal lead heading into the 14-minute mark. You could see that they really wanted to keep pressing forward by going for the Gold Fury, but Obey was expecting it this time around. It's really a good thing for them to keep grouping up. They can't get caught out of position because PandaLike has already have 2 deaths. Now having the early meditation, but he hasn't even had time to pop it because during the duration of Ragnarok, he's already dead.
Absolutely so. Got to be aware of that. iceicebabyy, slippery as always, has the Magi's blessing to keep himself really hard to lock down. Look how comfortable Cyclone are in the enemy jungle. just walking around without a care. Gold Fury will be pulled. There's a little bit of protection. Half HP on the objective. From behind comes Variety. Is it enough? Doesn't look like it. Cyclone take out the objective. And Wlfy and everybody else can exit stage right. Ice might trade his life. He's very low, and there's trouble on the back end. CaptainTwig by himself. He'll take Wlfy to the sky. This will not be lethal without a little bit of follow-up. But here comes PrettyPriMe and the rest of Obey. Beautiful, aggressive play by Obey. They force the kill. And I emphasize the word force.
Ice had to retreat on the north side, exposing Wlfy on the bottom. So great recognition from Obey, picking apart the opposition. But now Ataraxia, he's getting caught off on the top side. Great rotation from Ice sticking around.
You know what we call that one?
The Okie doke?
That's the Zapman Aegis.
That's the Zapman Aegis. Well, we also saw the Zapman Aegis coming out of Wlfy after he landed from that Naja ultimate with about 10% health. As an ISIS player, you realistically have nowhere to go. However, though, with his build, actually, now that I look at it, Celestial Legion helmet into the Warlock sash. He was relying on that circle of protection, trying to bounce him back up after the Sanctuary faded away.
Deathwalker walks into his own lane, into a sea of Obey jerseys. Able to jump right on by. Hey, Cyclone all the while has pushed up that left lane very quickly. Tier 1 tower nowhere to be seen on the left side. But like we said, Obey answer back, and the right one's gone for Cyclone.
But I still think that Cyclone, it would favor Cyclone in the dual lane. If you can get rid of that tier 1 tower, you push it beyond. You can use those minions on the left as a temporary vision to see if there's anybody in the dual lane. And if Gold Fury is respawning, you can easily keep sneaking it. And this is something Cyclone wants to keep doing. They have about a 4,000 gold lead at this point after getting the 14-minute Gold Fury tier 1 on the left, trading 1-for-1 after.
I love how steady Cyclone's lead is, right? They're just step by step by step, and then they stumble a little bit and they go, all right, you guys got a couple of kills. We weren't okay with that. We'll surge forward with another Gold Fury. So Cyclone definitely got their mind on their money. Nice jump over the top from iceicebabyy. Able to escape a little bit of trouble there, thanks to the Magi's Blessing.
Great usage of that pickup. The Magi's Blessing, such a smart pickup against this Bacchus and the Tier. The belly flop getting silenced immediately after landing, so not going to be able to follow up off of that one. Maybe Variety was looking for a blink play, but was thinking otherwise. The relic usage, still having the purification down on CaptainTwig. He can't really overextend quite yet.
And what I like about the Magi's Blessing is there's not a lot of bait out.
The
Hold
flank.
that. Here comes VoteNBK from the backside. Ultimate right down the middle. Honestly, just doesn't hit anything. But Deathwalker here grabs one. Trouble for Collins. Forced into the ultimate. Likely to die, but jumps away. There's the blink forward. And CaptainTwig able to make that one happen. Variety on the backside. But Ice answers back. It's a 2-for-1 so far. Cyclone not done just yet. Variety flips over the top looking for the Hunter. Couple of basics. Can't find the kill. There's the heal. Another power cleave. And the Fearless will clean it up. Variety from the right side of the map makes kill number 3 on his kill chart.
Everybody retreated in the middle lane. Just everybody dying one by one from Cyclone. Obey 3-for-1. They get the tier 1 mid. Nobody coming from Cyclone to defend this tier 2. And now it seems that Obey are slowly itching into the game. You were mentioning this before, F. about how can Cyclone really win past the 20-minute mark, and Obey have been responding.
I mean, this is Variety is actually useful now, right? Early in the game, he's just not going to be able to bring much, and honestly, his control is strong, which is why we saw Cyclone stay away from him. His power wasn't going to kill anybody, but the control was there, so Cyclone didn't really hang on the right side. Now Variety's got 2.5 items, almost about finished with the third one, and Variety is going to be able to make the impact. We saw right away, he rotates over that team fight, down. We saw a couple of players die to his hand alone. So this is the transition. Cyclone need to really surge forward. They still have a little bit of a lead, totally. They've got about 2,000 gold in the lead. They need to make another play and continue forward before Obey is able to snatch the rug out from under them.
I think it's just constantly utilizing the Wrath and the Isis Circle protection, maybe sneaking these Gold Furies or grouping up if Obey aren't being aware of this, but now it's going to be Variety. He wasn't able to defend his tower, but CaptainTwig going to be able to purify away. He has nowhere to go. Eliminated.
Wlfy gets credit for that off of the assist of, well, everybody on Cyclone. The team is grouped up. VoteNBK is going to split push in the mid lane. The job for Cyclone right now is to distract as their Hunter pushes down a mid lane tower. Can he do it before PrettyPriMe gets there? Looks like yes. VoteNBK is going to be able to get this one. You know what? This is straight guerrilla warfare. Cyclone understand that Obey has the stronger team comp, especially the later the game goes. And because of that, they're distracting. They're able to pick up these okie-doke kills like that one on the PandaLike. VoteNBK's in some trouble, but PrettyPriMe can't find the backfire.
And now PrettyPriMe, I think he might have overextended, but they're not electing to chase that target. They found PandaLike left alone on the right. Not able to invade the blue buff, but taking the small marginal wins, getting the tier 1 on the right, tier 1 in mid, and even forcing the purification out of Ataraxia. And I can guarantee you right now, Cyclone, they communicated that. So iceicebabyy, more than likely, he's going to be looking to jump in and Ragnarok Ataraxia to the rest of his team.
All right, look, I got to bring this one up. We haven't really touched upon the items because we've been so focused on Cyclone and their early game dominance. Tolly, do me a favor. You are the resident, math guy. Ataraxia just finished his 3rd item Titan's Bane after his 4th item Wind Demon. What's going on there?
It seems that he really likes leaving it at the tier 2 Titan's Bane, trying to get the Wind Demon, because the way Xing works, having that Fatalis effect after you agility, after your knockup, you really want to be able to chase targets down. The more often you crit, the better it is, especially if you have your 2 active, amplifying that by 15%. So overall, you're just like Sonic, honestly. You just want to go fast.
And so the 22% given from Titan's Bane 2, forgive me, I do not recall the actual name. Titan's Bane 2 is what we'll go. But it gives you 22% rather than the full percent penetration that you get from. That's enough. That's good enough.
It's good enough to get the towers, the Wlfys as well, because not that many players at this stage heading in the 20-minute mark are that tanky where you need that extra 11% penetration. So efficiency-wise, that's what it's all about for
This is the tipping point. Cyclone going for a Gold Fury at a point where Obey can actually fight into it. Ultimate at a PrettyPriMe. The Gold Fury goes down before that one is good. Cyclone secure the objective. But how about the fight? Raxia starts it off with a quick kill. Hi-Size avoids the meatball, still surrounded by 4 players. Aegis is going to protect him for now, but jumps over the wall. Quick play! And iceicebabyy is very, very, well...
He might still be in a little bit of trouble here. PrettyPriMe and Ataraxia want to find the kill. All 3 Gold Furies. iceicebabyy has been able to elude them by going up in the north side, and this is why he has not that many deaths, only 1 death. If they find this kill, he's worth so much gold. It goes to Ataraxia, so he's probably going to go into the rage now. Looking at it, he has 1,100 gold, got a huge bounty off of that kill.
And the rest of Obey are going to siege down this left side of the map. Tier 1 tower in their sights. Couple of players from Cyclone to the mid lane. So VoteNBK can't do anything but watch as his Tier 1 tower turns into rubble. Pings coming out. Cyclone going to respond. Likely not looking for the flank, but instead the straight defense. Tier 2 tower is being aggressed here by Obey. What can they do with the backside? There's Deathwalker getting a spin, but it's not enough. Flips up PandaLike. Here comes Variety. Won't look for the support just yet. And we'll have a reset.
I like Obey trying to push down the tier 2 because iceicebabyy is respawning still in 5 seconds, but now it's Variety, the soul lane, trying to start going aggressive. Tier 2 falling, iceicebabyy does revive. 1 target in there by CaptainTwig with a Vulcan ulti following up. Wlfy forces Sanctuary, and now using the ultimate to keep him alive. Ataraxia diving though.
Beautiful play out of the jungler and VoteNBK, however, to answer back. Raxia takes down Wlfy, and here's CaptainTwig in trouble. VoteNBK demotes him to private. That's the double kill for the Hunter. And CycloneGG have a fantastic defensive set, not allowing Obey onto the Phoenix.
Not to the Phoenix, but unfortunately for them, they lost their tier 1 and tier 2 in the duel lane, exposing that Phoenix. And looking at the builds coming online, there's a lot of damage between PrettyPriMe and Ataraxia to be able to really start shredding these Phoenixes. If they're not careful and they keep forcing the Gold Furies, the longer and longer respawn time is going to start really affecting them here, because Obey will push out 5-on-4.
13 to 11 read the kills, ladies and gentlemen. Cyclone have been off to a wicked start, to borrow a term from my New England friends. Right now, their lead has been cut short to about 2,000 gold. And starting the objective is going to be Cyclone, but they're quickly chased off by Obey. And this is the turning point, I think, Anatoly. Cyclone had a fantastic early game composition, but as the game gets later and later, their percentage to win goes lower and lower. Obey just has more tools in the late game.
I would definitely have to agree with you, and that's why we see Iceice now transitioning into a more defensive build, finishing off that Spear Robe after the Titan's Bane. I wouldn't be surprised if he goes for that Mantle of Discord once he does sell that Bumbus Mask. We see a nice little Fearless, and now it's going to be a 5-on-2. Callus and Deathwalker might be in trouble here.
Yeah, Cyclone are too far away to really react to this one. Raxing to dance forward, finds big damage, and a 5-man sling. Great play by Deathwalker. That's got to set a record.
And that's going to be one target in the air yet again. PrettyPriMe going to be looking for the follow-up, but he gets stunned out by the iceicebabyy. We see the Tian diving in the back line. CaptainTwig, though, gets traded out.
Over the wall comes Variety from literally nowhere. Beautiful belly flop. 3 for PrettyPriMe. That's why he's Mr. Vulcan. The deicide is done. Cyclone lick their wounds, and Obey get the Fire Giant.
He is Vulcan. PrettyPriMe just one Obey the game off of this. The Fire Giant will be secured. Amazing triple kill coming from PrettyPriMe.
I mean, when it comes down to it, a lot of times you gotta ask him, you gotta ask the analyst to break down a gameplay, right? You go, hey, Hindu man, where was the turning point? He says, well, I think it was here. And Adada says, I disagree, I think it was solo lane. And then Agar will say something about the console league. But when it comes down to it, this game, there was a belly flop, there was a nuclear bomb, and Obey won the game. It's that cut and dry.
And that's it for, like, it's literally that one little play.
One play.
They get the Fire Giant. Phoenix is going to go down. Cal's not going to be able to defend this by himself. Solo Phoenix going down. And Obey, they're just going to casually back off. They have this Fire Giant buff for another 3.5 minutes. They don't have to keep pressing their luck. Wlfy is about to respawn. They're going to get into the late game form. We see the claps coming out of PANDALIKE. I don't expect this to stop anytime soon.
I mean, how often do you get that just, well, there's the turning point, ladies and gentlemen?
That reminds me, that was almost like MLC Stealth Season 1-esque, where he got that triple kill with the, what was it, the Root Crush?
Yeah, I mean, you could point to a handful of plays like that. The Root Crush from MLC Stealth, going back to DreamHack Masters, Marcel's with the fantastic multi-kill at Ascilla, handed to him by XTT for Red Canids. And then, I mean, you could look at maybe the play of Repicas, right? The famous comeback where he gets the Kali kills. I mean, these are the types of plays that PANDALIKE and PrettyPriMe just set up. I mean, that was, when you pick the Vulcan belly flop combo, that's what you sort of dream about, and it just don't happen. That time around, you got one for the highlight reel.
Cyclone cannot allow PrettyPriMe to freely cast in the backline. I expect iceicebabyy Deathwalker to go really aggressive and disrupt that kind of flow. And as a result now, PrettyPriMe's going to have to sit really far back. He wants to be patient and try to follow up after PANDALIKE. That's when you're up in the air in the max distance, you don't have time to pop that Sanctuary. So it's a very important and crucial timing for both members.
Here comes Obey, barking down the left side. You know what, before the action, why don't we ride along with these guys, thanks to Steel Series, and see what they're planning.
The minions are going to our by the way. No, fuck the minions. It's fine. It's fine. Just stay here.
I lost a lot of my health, dude.
I don't know, man.
Okay, I'm gonna go in this way.
I'll definitely. I need to definitely.
I need to go on Vulcan.
I'm ulting.
He's on Vulcan, he's on Vulcan.
Jing, right? Jing is low, Jing.
Nice, that's a shot.
He's shelled.
Fenrir in the back.
Oh fuck, I whiffed.
Good match. I fucked up so bad.
No, look, this is destroying the Titan,
Take it. And we get mid,
Get mid.
I've got no CC immunity now.
Fuck him.
No, it's not.
Fenrir beats,
okay.
I mean, Anhur beats.
Did Fen ult in the last fight, guys?
Yeah, Fen ult.
Okay.
Stick together.
Okay. Callus gonna transform. Callus.
Oh, yeah. Just kill the Titans.
I don't have anything.
We got fire minions coming in.
Shit, what the?
We should wait for fights.
Look at that Fenrir,
I
guys.
don't have fire.
That Fenrir is dying me up.
I got no way, no beats either.
I don't have fire.
I'm scared. I think maybe we back off this, guys. Yeah, we should back.
Ben, yeah.
We can't kill we don't know
Yeah.
Okay, back.
Yeah, back off.
Help Harry. Back.
Run.
Go reach other.
I'm gonna go for speed.
I don't know if you guys heard me. I don't know if my mic was on or not. I screamed, make a call! Obey! Honestly, could they have taken the Titan? Could they not have? Who knows? Because they don't commit.
Can we look at the golden hand really quickly coming out of Obey? I just want to see. They're all sitting at about over 1,000 gold, so they want to play it safe currently.
They couldn't decide if they wanted to play it safe, totally. That was the issue.
They had all 3 Phoenixes down. If they managed to get 1 to 2 fire minion waves and play off of it, then maybe they could keep slowly whittling away at the Titan, maybe force somebody out of Cyclone just outside the Titan room, find a clean pick, and then go from there. Kind of a little bit of a dancing game between the two. But Cyclone weren't taking the bait. They were playing very safely behind the Titan room, not giving any wiggle room for Obey to go for the win. So as a result, Fire Giant respawning in about 35 seconds with Obey having all 3 Phoenixes down just now, right side respawning. But Obey with not that much of a gold lead, so as long as Cyclone can kind of delay the Fire Giant buff enough for these 2 Phoenixes to respawn, they could still defend here.
I mean, absolutely. This is one of the tighter games that we've had here. Obey with a very slight lead, about 2,000 gold, maybe 3, give or take. And they've got 3 kills above their opposition. Half hour on the clock here as our evening wanes on. Our last 2 matches here, Cyclone versus Obey. They've got this one, and then, of course, the follow-up. Obey in position to take this one, but as Totally mentioned, it's as close as they come, folks. Cyclone very much in a spot to play defense here. Fire Giant going to be clean and clear. Just got Obey's name all over it, and just to be official, there it goes. Fire Giant belts around their waists. And Obey now going to siege the right side, as it's the only side with the Phoenix.
Unfortunately for Cyclone, with left and mid Phoenix down, they had to defend those fire minion waves. Even Variety was flooding in the right side with that fire minion wave, just showing presence and dominance, not allowing Cyclone to really leave their base. And that could have been an easy trap for Obey. So it was very smart not to try to contest that fire.
I mean, Variety is basically just one big fire minion, right? And that's what he's always been throughout his career. Just a big, powerful slammer.
Oh my goodness, 404 damage not found coming out of Ataraxia, just being able to zone out. And now iceicebabyy forced into the Ragnarok. We see the belly flop coming into the Titan room. This is going to be an all-in play coming out of Obey, trying to find the first win in the set.
Raxia gets the kill onto 1. Here's 5 players from Obey. Target, Titan, target destroyed. Cyclone watch as Obey make the comeback against the early game squadron and take the game.
It seems that Obey have been really good about these other teams besides Energy. Coming from their online split, they only lost to Orbit and Energy. They've been able to really dominate this group in the online phases, being able to 2-0 Cringe Crew, being able to 2-0 Cyclone. I'm really expecting big things coming out of them in the second game also.
I mean, when it comes down to it, Obey is a team, one of the most improved squads, I think, in general. We saw them earlier this year as Hungry for More, and they were abysmal. You know, they came out 0-7, and they quickly turned around their season to find themselves just making DreamHack. And then after DreamHack, they became a more powerful team. And here at LAN, I mean, they're one of the big boys now, which is kind of crazy to see where they came from. Out of nowhere, just complete turnaround. And now they're poised, trying to make a shot for Super Regionals. We'll toss it over to the analysts and see what they have to say about game number 1.
Well, there was nothing vanilla about iceicebabyy in that first game.
Hey. Yeah, that's my boy.
I mean, listen, Ice had his backpack on for his team. My man's like 7-1, right? More than Barracuda. I mean, he was doing everything for the team. And then all of a sudden, I think level 17 hits, and Variety is like, rips the backpack off of Ice, dumps all of Cyclone out, puts his team in, and just played setup man for Prime.
You can see what iceicebabyy managed to get up to in the early stages. All game long aggro. He was a terror for the boys of Obey.
That's why you pick Fenrir, for games like that from iceicebabyy. But the idea there is that you're going to be able to transition it and hand the baton off to one of your teammates towards the later stages of the game. But like Kevin said, I mean, the baton got ripped away by Variety, as well as PrettyPriMe.
It was a guy with one hand as well. That's the worst thing.
So the main issue I saw from that game was, you know, we talked about it. Early game competition, they got to run it. And actually, they played it perfectly. I mean, it was a great early game performance from the Fenrir, also Deathwalker on that Jing 10. The invade worked out so well. They're about 3,000 up.
Okay, just quiet for a second. Quiet. Shh, watch. Watch, this is beautiful. Watching, here it comes. Any second now.
One time. That's the time.
That makes me feel a way that Smite should not make anyone feel.
It deserved a moment of silence, that one. I've got to be honest. That's like
beautiful.
a dream ranked game, right? Where everything goes right.
But so what happens, I think, for Cyclone there is they get off early, they get a bunch of kills, fantastic picks. I think first blood was actually Frezzy misreading a situation, jumping in, getting picked off, and then it just continued on every single player was ganked by iceicebabyy. Then they would go for these Gold Furies, and that's really where they would throw. They actually were able to secure those Gold Furies frequently and often, but then they would all just hang around too long. iceicebabyy, even Ice, like he was doing it perfectly. He would ult on Fenrir and just run away the opposite direction of his team, trying to bait people to follow him. He's like, I don't care if I die, I'm already ahead. And the rest of his team's just like, are we supposed to follow you? I don't know. Oh, I just got jumped on by Bacchus. Oh, we're all getting picked off. Oh.
Feels bad. I mean, Ice had a huge lead in the jungle.
Yeah.
He was up 1,400 gold on Twig at one point, multiple levels, but we talk about it a lot when we talk about Obey. It's Frezzy and Twig are willing to die to advance the cause of the team, and that's exactly what Twig did for the most part of that game.
Well, here's the jungle control map for you, and you can see how dominant it was in the first 5 minutes for Cyclone there, 59%. As the game went on, though, things continued in their fashion. This, for me, was more, you talked about iceicebabyy escaping there, Adonis, but when he did escape, he then went into the enemy jungle and stole stuff.
Yeah, and so, because obviously Obey did not chase him. They recognized that it's too much, let's go for these other players that are still sticking around trying to peel for each other. They would pick them off, and that opened up the map for Ice. He's like, even if I lose a player here, that's still fine. I can strip away their red buff or their speed buff and their blue buff, and we will stay, you know, still in a pretty big lead. But the issue was that Cyclone wasn't able to translate that lead into anything more than about 3 or 4K. When you play that early game, you have to stretch it to like 7,000 or 8,000, and that's when you can really start dominating with those team fights. But to be fair, like Obey had a really strong mid-game team comp for picking off players. We saw it multiple times, both Twig and PrettyPriMe answering back a lot of what Cyclone were doing.
And that's what Obey's done thus far here on day one. Is they struggled early game, and then mid-game comes and they win a couple team fights in a row, and it's really just off to the races for them. So I'd like to see teams start to pick a mid-game composition to kind of contest that up against Obey. The early game composition there was really, really great overall. I mean, you saw it on the graphs. Obey didn't get a speed or a blue buff for the first 10 minutes of the game. I mean, that is crazy. And then they come back and win that. Shows a lot of poise, a lot of experience on the side of Obey.
Well, I've seen a lot of Fenrir today, and you guys, well, you can pick up some skins for Fenrir in the Reaping that is now available as well. Reaping Part 2 is now available for you to go and complete, and 50% off selected skins between now, I believe, is it now? Is 21st now? I don't know dates. All I know is land group C.
Yeah, it says
my phone. Yeah,
Adonis, it says
Friday,
in big
Saturday,
letters
Sunday.
on the
Listen.
computer in front of you, and you still look at your phone. Come on, man.
I forgot I don't have a feed.
It's huge.
Don't blame me.
You just gave away that Adonis doesn't have anything on his computer there.
He doesn't need anything on his computer.
But
He's
yes,
that
it is the
good.
21st today. Sorry.